Is my screen visible to you?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Till yesterday we saw. Thank you, thank you. Okay. Till yesterday, what we saw was about types of bonds: header bond, stretcher bond, English, and Flemish bond. Did you all try the rough sketch for identifying the difference between all those bonds? Did you all give a try?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you for your responses. Okay, and today we'll see the two types of Flemish bond classification. One is called single Flemish bond, and another one is called double Flemish bond. Single Flemish bond, this facilitates the facing of the wall to be in Flemish bond and backing in English, which means the front face, the front view of your wall will be a Flemish bond. Flemish bond is nothing but the alternate placing of stretcher, header, followed by stretcher, followed by header. This is your Flemish bond. Towards the back side of this wall, here you will be having the English bond placing. So this combo comes as single Flemish bond. This will entail use of snap headers. This attempts to combine partially the better appearance of English bond and better strength provided by the Flemish bond and better strength provided by the English bond. Towards your front, you have the Flemish bond appearance for aesthetic view. Towards the back, you have the English bond for bearing the strength. This is a double Flemish bond. Here, the courses both in the facing and the back are formed with alternate stretcher and header. The front, you have the wall here. If you see the front side or the back side, both will be similar, which means you have to construct in such a way that you place your stretcher, header in that manner. For each course, it should be alternative. Yeah, for each course it should be alternative. Also along a horizontal manner it should be alternative. In order to obtain the lap, which is equal to 1/4 of the length of the brick, a queen closer is introduced next to the queen header. Here is a queen closer introduced next to the queen header in alternate courses. This comes only for your 1, 3 and 5th row, which means your courses, the alternative courses. The intervening ones commencing with the stretcher. In between the 1, 3 and 5, you have your 2 and 4. That starts with the stretcher bond. The intervening ones commencing with the stretcher, and every header will obtain a location that is central with respect to the stretcher above and below. Advantages of English bonds are they are uniform in appearance on both the faces. It requires less number of facing bricks. Hence, economical if special facing bricks are used. Also, one thing you need to be concentrating on this is only professionally skilled laborers will be able to fix it in such a manner. They provide the bricks facing this way and that way. It should be equal. Suitable for single brick thick walls for normally for a house construction with strong mortars such as cement mortars. And this is the plan view for single Flemish bond and this is for double Flemish bond. Here you have the front and back you have your English bonds. This you consider this L shape. Here if you have your alternate stretcher and headers, followed by that you have your header bonds. On the other side it will be followed by your stretcher bonds. Should make sure that this thickness and this thickness is nothing but 1.5 brick thickness. You have 1 brick here followed by half brick here. This means 1.5 brick thickness wall. And here you have the same 1.5 thick wall. Here you have placed in such a manner that your quoins are in this direction. Here your quoins in this vertical direction. This is the double Flemish bond. Here this is the typical type of the Flemish bond. Finally, if you form everything, it will be in the form of square. 1 stretcher and you have 1 header, 1 stretcher, 1 header. In the between, you'll be having the half brick wall. I mean, half brick you have to place in the between to provide a connectivity. Again, this is the back view. If you view from this side and this side, it will be the same. And this is garden wall bond. There are two types of garden wall bond. One is English garden wall, another is Flemish garden wall. In English garden wall, it consists of header course with necessary queen closer next to the queen header. You have your queen closer next to the queen header to three or more times even stretches. You have, this is the first wall for you. I mean, first course. The first course, you have your queen header followed by a queen closer. Then, when you go on the verticality, you find three different layers of stretcher bonds. Then again, you have the same repetitive of the first row. This is going to be your English garden wall. We'll see the advantages of English garden wall. One brick thick walls are easier to construct, economical, and save facing bricks in case of exposed work. And this is Flemish garden wall. It consists of alternate courses compared of one header to three times, even five stretches in series throughout the length of the courses. This way, you consider this. This is your first Q answer. As we saw earlier, the alternative will be your stretcher bonds. Over that, you'll have your 1, 3, 5 replica here. The previous case, you saw 3 to 5 rows of differences. Here, you'll have 1 to 3 rows of differences. This is called a Flemish garden wall. And what is American or common bond? It is nothing but variation of running bond with the course of full length headers at regular intervals. These headers provide a structural bonding as well as pattern. Header courses usually appear at every fifth, sixth, or seventh courses. You find your alternative at the bottom. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Till fifth row, you have only a stretcher bond. Again, it falls on the seventh row. That is, after 1 plus 5, you have 6 here. Over the seventh row, you have your same replica of your first one. In laying out any bond pattern, it is important that the corners be started correctly. For common bond, a 3/4 brick should start with each way from the corner at the header course. This is a, if you start here, see, this is going to be a header course. Header course means a row arranged with headers. Stretcher course is nothing but a row arranged with stretchers. You know what is course? Course is nothing but the row of bricks. And this is your 3/4 brick, and this is also your 3/4 brick. Yes, can you see this? 3/4, 3/4. Then you will have your header bonds continued here. At the behind, you will have only stretcher bonds. For common bond, a 3/4 brick should start each way from the corner at the header course. This is your 3/4 brick. Common bond may be varied by using a Flemish header course. We'll see the different types of bricks used for this bonding. We have seen what is bonding, what are the different types of bonds. If people have any doubt in bonds, types of bonds, shall we proceed to the next topic, bricks? Yes. Okay, thank you. The types of bricks, we have, it is classified based upon the materials used. We'll see what are those. Burnt clay bricks, sand lime bricks, that is nothing but calcium silicate bricks. Next is concrete bricks, fly ash bricks, fire bricks. These are the basic fundamental types of bricks. But nowadays you have numerous alternative bricks. Those have been invented by conducting multiple researches, and finally they ended up in a new material. We'll see the conventional materials as of now. The types includes unburnt bricks. The clay bricks we go for unburnt and burnt bricks. What is unburnt bricks? They are also known as sun-dried bricks. Lower strength can be obtained for, this is mainly used for temporary structures, not for permanent structures. Because this sun-dried bricks, it will be dried only on the surfaces. The internal clay content will be wet in condition, so it will not bear the proper strength. For burnt bricks, these types of bricks are made up of burning in the kilns. Depending upon the quality, burnt bricks can be classified into 3 categories. We'll see the properties, class 1, 2, 3, 3 different classifications of the burnt bricks. Upon the molding, they are table molded, ground molded. Shape and size, for the class 1 and 2, it is uniform. Class 3, it is more or less not uniform because it is going to be handmade. And the color
Ma'am,
is, yeah.
ma'am, what is stable molded and ground molded?
Table molded. You have a particular type of mold. Do you know what is mold?
Uh, yes,
Mold
ma'am.
is nothing but, yeah, the corners or the cover, or you follow some template over which you can place your things. You can find some kids playing with a clay mold. They'll have some shape formed in a particular material, maybe either plastic or steel. You have like they'll prepare the clay, they'll arrange it in a plate. You have the press called the template or the mold. They just do press it, and this comes in a table. So everything will be of mold type. You just put the clay there, press it, you get your clay ready. That is table mold. You go for ground mold, it will be like you can see this ground molds over the village sites where people used to put their own clins in their land. They'll be doing everything with the hand. It will be that will not be used for commercial purpose. They use for their own building of houses, so and so, that they'll be doing. That is ground molded. They'll be following. Are you okay? Are you clear?
Yes,
Shall
ma'am.
we? Yeah. Okay. The shape, it will be not uniform when it is going to be handmade. So one will differ from the other if they are going to pack it with their hand or any, they'll have some trowel or something to pack it, then it is not going to work out. Each shape will differ from the other. For the color, it is uniform red or brown, and it is uniform red, it is non-uniform and dark. I'll tell this, when it is going to be closed clean, you will be following the particular temperature of which you are going to burn the clay. That finally will result in your uniform color. And if it is, if the temperature is less, you'll be getting this red color. If it is too hot, if you are raising the temperature, you'll be getting a brown. If you're leaving to burn, it will turn into black. Whereas in this case, it will be uniform red, and here it is going to be non-uniform and dark because they are going to follow in that some man-made. They don't follow any furnace or heat boiling structures. They'll just frame. You might have seen in those villages. It will be like a arch shape where it will be arranged only of the with bricks. The entire canal will be built of the bricks. They'll insert some woods. They'll put on fire to that. Till the wood is burning, it will be getting heated. The internal atmosphere will be getting heated. There you will be seeing this ununiform color formation of the bricks. Where the temperature is more, the brick will be darker in color. When the temperature is less, the color will be very less. I mean, very lighter. Uniformity in temperature will not be followed in case of class 3. The water absorption, it is 15 percentage, 22 percentage, and 25 percentage. The crushing strength, it will vary from 10.5 Newton per mm squared, 7 Newton per mm squared, and 3 Newton per mm squared. Making a process clean, burnt and cleanse, and sometimes slightly vary over the burnt bricks. Burnt and cleanse and maybe overburnt or underburnt bricks will be obtained. The use is for permanent structures, and this use they'll be having it for internal walls that require plastering and used in temporary structures. When you go purchase some bricks for your own house, you go order it, you just buy and keep it, you stock it near your site. When your engineer or a mason comes, he'll isolate or he'll categorize a few bricks that are not burned properly. That may be identified from the color, from the uniformity shape, and if you just knock at it, you'll be able to hear some sound from it. Those people who are used to work on it, they'll be knowing this, and they'll filter some bricks. Those bricks they'll be using for the internal wall construction, where that internal wall is not going to bear any load. That will be just a partition. For that purpose, they will use those bricks. And these are for the temporary structures. And testing of bricks, first is the field test. Test based upon the uniformity in size. Surface should be plain with sharp and right angled corners and uniform in size. If the corners are not proper, if they are not sharp, then think of a wall without proper shaped bricks, how it will be. One will be round headed, one will be the angular ended, one will be with the sharp headed. So the uniformity of the wall will not be proper. Uniformity in color. Structure, a homogeneous and compact structure, free from holes and lumps, can be examined by breaking few bricks. You can just, if you you can take a brick, you can break it with a trowel, you can see whether it is uniform in the mid or not. If it is uniform in the mid, it is a good brick. If the color varies, then that is not proper. Sound test. While stuck against each other, should produce a metallic sound. Hardness test. Scratching with a nail, no impression should be there. Strength test. When dropped from 1 meter height, the brick should not break. If the internal material, if it is not homogeneous, if the temperature burnt is not homogeneous within the brick, then it will break if you drop it from particular height. And the lab test, it is the basic test you do for bricks is the compression strength. Not only for the bricks, for any material you go, for the concrete of the steel, whatever you go, you test it for the compressive strength. This is based upon the IS 3495 Part 1 of 1992. This version has been revised now. The common burnt clay bricks shall be classified on the basis on average of the compressive strength. The bricks, when tested in accordance with the procedure laid down, shall have minimum average compressive strength of 4 Newton per mm square. That is going to be your minimum compressive strength. If it is less than that, then that brick will not be considered. And water absorption. You will be testing 3 samples there and take the average of it. Water absorption based upon the same IS code of the part 2. Oven-dried bricks are immersed in cold water for 24 hours. Water absorption shall not be more than 20% by weight, up to class 12.5 and 15% by weight for higher classes. Here we saw already that it is more than 20%, 22%. Class 2 is 22% and class 3 is 25% water absorption. So this both will not be used for, it is not reliable to use for permanent structures. Efflorescence based upon the part 3 of the same code book. After immersion in water for 24 hours, the bricks are examined from the presence of any gray or white patches. They'll check whether the physical examination, whether any gray patches are there or white patches are there. The rating of efflorescence shall not be more than moderate up to class 12.5 and slight for higher classes. It is nothing but 12.5%. And testing of the bricks, we have lab test and shape and sizes based upon 1077-1992. 20 bricks are selected at random. Over the stock thing, you select any 20 at the random, stock lengthwise, and the total length is measured. You'll arrange everything, you measure the total length. It should be 3800 plus 80. The breadth should be 1800 plus 40. Width is 1800 plus 40. And based upon the chemical attacks we tested for the alkalis, no patches should be observed. Slightly 10 to 50% of area covered with deposits. Moderate category falls for 10 to 50%. Heavy falls for more than 50%. Serious heavy patches along with flecking of surfaces that should not be used under any circumstances. Mostly when it is in the moderate condition, that also you can use only for your internal walls. The slide only for the slide you can use it for the outer wall thicknesses. And this heavy, it is not at all reliable to use for any type of construction. And we are done with this. Yes. Next. Shall we move on to the next topic?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Anyone has doubt in this? Shall we move on to the next topic?
Hello.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, what are means these codes like IS 1992, 1995 means what are these?
This IS code, it's nothing but you have certain IS codes for your bricks as well as for your cement and concrete. This 1992, 1995 is nothing but the year of revision. Initially, it was developed in the year 1992 for this bricks, and then it was later reaffirmed. That is, they do revision for the codes. It is 1995. Again, they do revision in the year 1995. You can go browse whether latest editions of this code book are available. I think for concrete it has been revised in 2019. I'm not aware of the revision based upon the bricks. I'll check and let you know if you want to know more about it. Okay,
Thank you, ma'am.
that is nothing but the year of revision. Yes, shall we move to the next topic? Is my screen visible?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. And the next topic is nothing but the plastering and pointing. We saw about stone masonry, brick masonry, the types of bonds, and what materials we use for brickworks, for bondings. We saw all those things. Now everything is done. You construct a wall using your mortars. Now we'll think how are we going to plaster it? Cover the exposed wall. The covering of the exposed wall is plastering. So we'll be seeing about this. Okay. The process of covering rough surfaces of columns, walls, ceilings with a layer of mortar is called plastering. The term plastering can be used to indicate the work done for both internal and external surface of the building. This can be done both the internal and the external as well. And the rendering, the term used to indicate the work carried out in external surface of the walls. Pointing is nothing but the finishing of mortar joints so as to make them watertight. You have to make sure that the water doesn't penetrate through it. Okay, these are the main layers of your coating of your paints. Okay, plastering, rendering, pointing. Okay, why plastering is required? To give a smooth surface. Yes, you need a smooth surface inside your house. Is it not?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, you can. If you have time, you can go and check whether your internal wall, that is your room wall, and your outside surface of your wall are the same. You can go touch and feel it whether your internal wall and the external wall are both same.
Ma'am, they are same, ma'am.
They are same.
Yeah, ma'am.
In few constructions it will be same. In not all buildings it will be same. You can go and
Ma'am,
check it.
Asian Paints.
You can go and check it. Okay, that's the internal wall of your room. You can go check it at the outside corner of the building. You may feel that the outside building will be little rough. You can go give a try when you're free. But don't go outside your home, roam somewhere and touch, feel and come. Telling that ma'am only told to go outside. Okay. Be safe wherever you are. Just give a try if possible. Rectify any defects in workmanship. Conceal inferior materials. Protect walls from rodents and noxious insects. Protect surface from rainwater and adverse weather conditions. What are the materials we are using for plastering? What materials you'll be using? Have you anyone tried just doing with your scale, pencil, or rubber? What is inside your paint? Have you done in your childhood?
Obviously, ma'am.
If you are any part of your house, if you see some scratches are there, just go dig and see what is there inside. But wantedly, don't go and disturb a very good wall. I mean, painting or a wall. Okay, if it is disturbed, just go and see what is there. The materials used include mud, lime, cement, lime cement. You have the following properties. The mortar material should adhere to the surface. Noise is disturbing, kindly mute. Should be hard and durable. should effectively resist penetration of moisture from the surface, should be able to use in all weathering condition. If you are painting your wall, if you are giving a basic plastering coat, someone like you might have seen some people have left their house only with the plastering coat. They might have not given anything. You have to make sure that it suits with all the weather conditions. Should be cheap and easy to handle. Mortar is an intimate mixture of inert cement material, fine aggregate, and water. Cement, fine, and water for binding the building blocks and plastering the masonry surface. What are the types of mortars used in plastering? Mud plaster, lime plaster, cement plaster, lime cement plaster. These are the four different types of mortars that we are using for plastering. What is a mud plaster? The clay content in the mud, it should be less than 10 percentage. Plasticity index should range from 6 to 7. 10 percentage of the clay content should pass through 2.36 mm sieve, and not less than 75 percentage should pass through 85 micron sieve. The soil is mixed with water and left for 1 to 2 weeks. About 33 kg of straw is chopped and mixed before plastering. It is mixed, it is like it should be cut and mixed before plastering. Generally used in brick masonry, and it is cheap. This was the mud plastering was the previous thing which our ancestors or those people who discussed their grandparents and so lived in the mud houses. No, that time mud plastering was done. And next is lime plaster. Lime can be used as hydraulic or flat lime. On drying, they give a hardened or stronger surface. Take 6 to 8 months to complete slaking. Any unslaked lime, now this was the previous things, but nowadays lime plasters are readily available in your hardware shop. If you go, you can purchase it. You can just mix it with water and just you can put it over your walls. Any unslaked lime may give rise to blisters. Blisters is nothing but those small clogs that may be formed the uneven surface. Hydraulic lime is to sand ratios 1 is to 2. 1% of hydraulic lime mixed with 2% of sand. This should be ground dry and left for 2 to 3 weeks. Reground, and then you have to mix it again and then use it. Flat lime is to sand is flat lime of 1% and sand of 3%. This ratio is you have to correlate flat lime to 1 and sand to 3. To this varying percentage, 1 is to 3 to 1 is to 4, wet mixed condition can be used. To increase the binding property of the lime, a gum called Google is used. Google is nothing but transparent, fragrant liquid or the glue type that you will be using in order to bind it with your material. Just a second. Okay. 1.6 kg of Google is added per cubic meter of mortar. Google is boiled with sufficient water before adding it to the mortar. 1 kg of hum per cubic meter of mortar can be added to increase the tensile property of the mortar. Mortar thus prepared is kept for 2 days. It is allowed for 2 days and then it is brought into use. I'll be sharing this slide. You can have a glance over it. If you have any doubt, tomorrow also can ask me, no problem. One second, I'll fix it here. Okay. Cement plaster. Cement is the binding material used for this type of plastering. Sand also, for every plastering type, you'll be having your aggregate. That is your fine aggregate. Fine aggregate is nothing but the sand you'll be using. Cement is to sand ratios 1 is to 4 or 1 is to 6 can be utilized. The sand is placed first and then you have to put the sand, then mix it with the cement. Then both you have to mix it in the dry condition and then you have to add water to make it as a slurry to use it for your plastering. Both are mixed thoroughly in dry condition. That the required amount of water is added and mixed till required color and consistency is obtained. Should be used within 30 minutes of mixing with water. You have to mix your dry mixture of your sand as well as your fine aggregate. You have to mix it with water. Once you have mixed it, make sure you place that particular mortar over your wall. You should not delay it more than 30 minutes. What happened if you delay it of 30 minutes? You can feel that mortar is getting dried. That will not stick on to your this properly. For better consistency, you have to use it before 30 minutes. So that only like you'll be have you anyone see it like have you just checked some people or the masonry working near your house nearby your house or any area. If you have seen, what they'll do is, if the wall is ready, they want to do it plastering work, they'll mix only few proportions. For the entire wall, they'll not go at a stretch of mixing. They'll mix it. The dry mixing they'll prepare and keep. For the wet mixing, they'll mix it. They'll just plaster it, and for the that will be for the quarter wall or the half the portion of the wall. Again, they'll go for remixing with water for the remaining portion, and again they'll coat it with the upper portion. These things usually happen because they'll not let it dry the cement mortar here, and it should be used within 30 minutes. To make sure this cement mortar should be waterproof, pulverized alum is added to cement sand mix of 1:2 at a rate of 12 kg per meter cube of sand in a dry state. This goes optional. To this dry mix, soap water containing about 0.075 kg of soft soap or soap per liter of water is used. Okay. Next is a lime cement plaster. To improve the plasticity of mortar and to maintain the strength of the cement, it is preferable to use lime cement plaster. Cement lime is to sand. You see the different proportions. Cement is to lime is to sand. If we go for 1:1:6 or 1:1:8 or this range. This lime range may vary from 1 to 2. You can choose it as 1:1.5:8 or 1:1.75:8. It depends upon the need at your site. Flat lime is preferred over hydraulic lime in this type of plasters. Okay. And tools, I think my internet connectivity is low. That is why there is a little delay. I just off this camera. Okay. The tools used for plastering. These are the basic tools. Have you ever seen these tools?
Ma'am, the PDF page is not changing. Yeah, it changed now.
Can you see these tools? Rectangular trowel and
Yes,
pointing
ma'am.
trowel.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Have you ever seen this?
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Do you know for what purpose they are using this?
For plastering.
For
To give it
plastering. Which
a
one is used for plastering?
rectangular one.
Rectangular.
Give the
Rectangular.
finishing touch, ma'am.
Yeah. This rectangular trowel, this is called trowel. This rectangular trowels are used for plastering works. And you can see a larger size of rectangular trowels are also now available for easy plastering works. And this pointing trowel, it is used for mixing as well as you can just lift and just put your mortar over the wall. That purpose you are using this pointing trowel. Are you along with me? Are you able to understand?
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
Oh,
Ma'am.
I'm sorry I couldn't turn on my camera because due to network issues. Okay, pointing trowel is this. You mix your materials with it. You can take and you can just put it over your wall. For that purpose, you use this pointing trowel. Gauging trowel, gauging material and applying it to the surface. You just lift and put it. Floats to press and spread the mortar uniformly. That is for the maximum thing is your rectangular thing. You have to spread the mortar uniformly over your wall. You have to make sure for uniform spread. Is it visible?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Tools used for plastering: plumb bob, set square, spirit level, and brushes. You know what is plumb bob used for?
It is used for marking.
Vertical level.
For yes,
measurement.
marking and measuring.
Yeah,
Marking
for
and
marking.
measurement.
It is used for vertical.
Yes. To check the verticality, we can use the plumb bob. And the spirit level, we can use it for checking the horizontal.
Horizontal level.
Horizontal level. Yes. And these are the brushes which you use. Also, set squares, you just check the angularity. You might have used set squares in your engineering graphics. Have you used it?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, that
Yes, ma'am.
set squares, wooden set squares will be available that you can use it at the work site. You can check whether your connection between the room walls are correct or there may be a mild deviation. You can check that. Those things are used. Surface preparation. How will we prepare the surface for placing the plastering work? Before plastering, the surface should be prepared. The old surface, clean the old surface to remove the dirt. You might have seen some steel brushes or the sponge brushes that will be that will be available in the hardware shop. That our masons will be cleaning the built wall. They'll clean it first. They'll clean it with a rough steel brush. They'll make sure they doesn't damage the brick. They'll make sure that only the extra portions of the mortars just come off, and the soft sponge brushes will be used to remove the extra dirt or the paint things. Clean the old surface to remove the dirt, oil or paint, etc. Remove any loose plaster. If any loose plastering is done, they'll remove it. They rack the joints with the wire brushes, and that's wire brushes, nothing but a steel brush which I told. And clean surface is washed to get enough dampness. They just wash it with they'll just watering it the entire wall, and they'll go for plastering work. Okay. And for the new surface, rack all masonry joints to a depth of 10 to 15 mm. Remove any unevenness. If there is some extra mortar that is unevenness, you have to remove it. Remove any mortar dropping and dirt with wire brush. Wash the surface with clean water. Get into wet dampness. Number of coats. How many coats we are going to give? For brick and building blocks, you'll be giving 1 to 3 coats. For the stonework, minimum 2 coats. For the wood or the metal surfaces, it will be minimum of 3 coats, because wood also you should be very careful in the rainy season. You will be finding wood little bulgy. For the metal surface, it should not be exposed to any corrosion. So we go for three layers of coats. And for the low cost construction, you go only for 1 coat. Thickness of plastering. For the first coat, undercoat or a rendering coat, 10 to 15 mm thickness. You go for 10 to 15 mm thickness. For the second layer, the additional coat, you go for 6 to 9 mm thickness. For the third coat, you go for 2 to 3 mm thickness. The external wall, it is minimum 20 mm thickness. The single coat of maximum 20 mm thick. Those things will be followed. I'll circulate the PPT so that you can have a glance over it. Number and thickness of the plastering. It's the mud plaster, 20 mm thick plaster. This is our olden days mud plaster. I don't know, like a few straws will be cut into it, and that they'll be binding it with the mud mortar. You can see some strip-like things. It is not even. 20 mm thick plaster is provided after preparing the surface. First coat 20 mm thick wooden float. Next is second coat is 6 mm thick polished with the trowel. This is the trowel that the person is using. Applied after 24 hours over the once the first coat is done, they'll take some 24 hours, and over that they'll put the second coat. Curing is not required. Fine white earth or cow dung, this will be used. This thing, white earth, cow dung, cement, the ratio of 3:2:1 is applied to the surface. Allowed to dry in sand for 3 to 4 days. Sorry, allowed to dry in shade for 3 to 4 days. Your normal type of line or yeah.
And what is curing?
You know what is curing? You when it is exposed to water, when a specimen is exposed to water, you will give some water along your specimen to make the process to carry on. You will set your mortar, you'll set your wall, you will damp it frequently. You want that mortar to get some water, and that will take your hydration process, that will develop your have you started learning about the concrete technology? Yes. Hello, are you with me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Curing is nothing but the external requirement of water for any material to develop within. If you want, I'll put a detailed thing in tomorrow's class regarding curing for that. Okay. What is curing and what is the purpose of curing? Okay. And this is a lime plaster. Are we running out of time? Okay. 2 to 3 coats of plastering. For the first coat, I'll stop with this slide. So we'll continue in the next class. The mortar dots of 150 by 150 are placed horizontally and vertically at 2 by 2 meter spacing. The prepared surface, 2 dots. You just fix some spacing for 2 to 2. You'll be finishing that surface. Then you'll move on to the other exposed area. Thickness of the dots is equal to the thickness of the coat. Then the vertical strips is known as shreds. These shreds are made up of 2 rows of dots and placed at a distance of 2 meter from each other. The level of shreds is checked. Mortar is splashed with a trowel between the 2 successive and they are rubbed well with a float. At the end of the plastering, between the successive shreds, the surface is finished properly and then scratched crisscross with the edge of the trowel. They wanted to just fix a particular area, they finish it off and then move on to the next thing. That is for that only they're fixing the 2 dots. They are putting the mortar over it, splashing the mortar over it. They just fill it, level it off with the surface, remove the extra dust. Then they go on to the next area. I will continue all those things in the next class. Okay. Do you have any doubts?
No, ma'am.